dying very slowly.
Why can I not see it? It's not here. I have another.
Oh, it's on yours.
Yeah, I'll get it for you in a second.
You memorize the verse now.
So, you know that the iTunes, you need to sell you that? I was, I had so much reading this weekend, so I
All nations of all tribes of all people of all nations of all tribes of all tongues before the throne stand myriads of myriads. Before the throne stand myriads of myriads, coming from everywhere, coming from everywhere. In the furnace they stroll, imprisoned as if at home. In the Spirit they felt consoled, in Christ they were absorbed. For they were the ones he saved when the blood he gave. They were the ones he saved when the blood he gave. I saw them cheering as they came this way. Of all nations, of all tribes, of all people, of all nations, of all tribes, of all tongues. Before the throne stand myriads of myriads. Before the throne stand myriads of myriads, coming from everywhere, coming from everywhere. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, amen.
There's room right here, guys, if in the back, if you want to come in to the front, it's up to you. We'll have an exercise, so it's good to get a little closer. Surprise exercise. All right. So the topic for this discussion is truth. Truth. And I will do my best not to make it overly academic and scholastic, because truth could be somewhat philosophical and abstract. But and we cannot talk about truth in 45 minutes. This is a semester-long kind of discussion. But I'll do my best to extract the most relevant concepts and ideas about truth. Before I begin, I wanted to ask you a question. When I say truth, Can you tell me, and please help me out as we go along. When I say truth, what comes to mind?
Christ.
Who said? Paul. Very good. Christ. What else? What is truth?
Reality.
Who said? Excellent. Excellent. Reality. What is truth? Absolute. One of the characteristics of truth. We can expand on this a little. What is truth? You want to say something? The way. Truth is the way. Very good. Christ is the way to the truth. Very good. It doesn't change with time. Very good. So we have established a common understanding of truth. We build on this definition as we go on with the discussion, because it's important to define our terms first before we go on into the lecture, or else we'll be talking about two different things. So truth, is it important? Obviously, it's important for the same reason all of the definitions you mentioned are important. Here's what we will discuss. Why talk about truth? What is truth? Characteristics of truth, significance of truth, and why do we suppress the truth? Or why our culture suppresses the truth. Some statistics, 65%, I think I have the links or the reference. I have the references. I always like to put the references of any statistics so that you know that this is not just made up statistics. 65% of Americans say that there's no way to tell which religion is true. This was a research that was done by barna.org a few years back. I think the sample size was close to maybe 5,000 or so. 65% say there's no way to tell which religion is true. 58% believe all faiths teach equally valid truth, which is pluralism. Remember the picture I showed you last night? We're all climbing the same mountain. Okay. What are the cultural trends? Why talk about truth? Why is it important? And I will share with you some statements that are very common. Correct me if I'm wrong. But they are very, at least in California, they are very common on college campuses. These statements are, well, it may be true for you, it's not true for me. Do you hear that? Right? Don't force your values on me just because they're true for you. Aren't you a little arrogant by claiming that you have the truth? Who are you to impose your truth on my truth? Because what's true for you may not be true for me, right? And there are several other statements that imply that truth is relative. It is not, as you mentioned, it is not absolute. It's relative. In other words, I have my truth, you have your truth. You know, there's, I think last year we did this, and I don't want to repeat it again this year, but there are always comebacks, if you will, to these statements. For example, when someone tells you, no one knows the truth. Agnostics, by the way, say, no one knows, because agnosticism is lack of, or not knowing. No one knows the truth. What do you say to someone who says, no one knows the truth? How do you know that's true? Exactly, exactly. When someone says, truth is relative, what do you say? Besides, relative to what is a good response. But when someone says truth is relative, I had a video. I wish I show you. Maybe I'll share this video towards the end. I was doing an interview on a college campus, and I was asking, "What do you believe in absolute truth?" So the one of the responses was, "No, truth is relative." So I asked him, "So are you saying that truth is relative?" You know what the response he said? "Absolutely." It's not a joke. I'll show you the video. I'll show you the clip. This was not rehearsed. So when someone says truth is relative, you can respond and say, is that a relative truth? That truth is relative. Do you see? Those who say truth is relative believe everything else is relative except the statement that truth is relative. Do you get it? So you can apply the logic back. Is truth relative? Is that a relative truth? No one knows the truth. Well, how do you know that? Well, this is true for you, but it's not true for me. You can say, is that true for you, but not for me? Do you see what I'm saying? So the logic self-refutes or self-destructs. You cannot escape the fact that truth, by definition, is absolute, as you mentioned. And we'll go on and we'll explain a little more. 72, here's another reference, 72 of Americans, I think also sample size, you can get the sample size in the info from the link, do not believe that absolute truth exists. Of course, we live in a culture that thrives on tolerance, open-mindedness, acceptance. Not that these values are evil or bad if appropriately understood. But we thrive on multiculturalism and tolerance, so of course it's very arrogant and very fanatic-like to say truth is absolute and I'm holding on to it. You see? Our current culture now believes that there are better ways of discovering truth, better ways than reason and logic and revelation according to Christians, the scriptures. What are the better ways of discovering truth in our culture nowadays? Science, very good. Even better than science. I should say worse than science. What are ways to discover truth? Media, very good. Media, what else? Yes, Tony. Experience. How about feelings? Feelings. I'll never forget one philosopher, apologist, his name is Dr. Ravi Zacharias, one of my favorite. And if you ever go to a bookstore and find a book that says written by Ravi Zacharias, do yourself a favor and buy it, because it will be a good book. Ravi Zacharias said, we live in a generation that thinks with its feelings and listens with its eyes. We live in a generation that thinks with its feelings and listens with its eyes. True? Absolutely true. Feelings supersedes everything. If it feels good, it must be true. I'm almost reluctant to say what I'm about to say, but Hugh Hefner said in the 70s and 80s, if it feels good, then do it because it's good. That was kind of the motto of, anyways, let's move on. Feelings, experience, metaphors, intuitions, these are ways by which now our culture comes to define truth and attain truth. Let's go over truth over time, or timeline of truth. What happens from the first century to now, to this century? What happened to truth over the years? First, we have theistic mindset of, or theism was prevalent at this time and predominant in the world between the first century and the 16th century or so. Truth has been revealed to man by God. Truth has been revealed to man by God. And this was kind of the ideology that was very prevalent at the time. Now by the 16th, 17th century, modernism crept in, and then truth has become no longer a revelation to man by God. Truth is now discovered by reason and logic. Reason and logic were very at the forefront of everything in the 15th, 16th, 17th century, maybe 16th, 17th, and 18th century. Why? What happened? Major events in the world that took place in these centuries that gave rise to reason and logic. Renaissance. What else? Two more. Renaissance and in Europe as well. The Enlightenment. What else? The Industrial Revolution. All of these movements, if you will, gave rise to the importance of reason and logic. And they said, well, you know what? We can do it on our own. We can get truth on our own. We don't need him anymore. It's all about our mind, our technology, and so on and so forth. Now, in the 21st century, a realization. They realized that, you know what? Now we're depending so much on our reason, our logic, but we're missing a very important component, spirituality. We felt bankrupt as a society that we have missed out on this spirituality that we were getting from God. But we don't want to go back to a truth that is revealed to man by God. Well, what do? How about if we make up our own truth? Postmodernism, which is the era that we live in, truth does not exist objectively, it exists subjectively. In other words, I make up my own truth. And that's why you see the rise of, as I mentioned yesterday, pantheism. Oprah Winfrey, if you listen to her, what does she say all the time? You have to discover the truth within, the divine within. And several others talk about truth is a self-constructed phenomena. It is no longer a revelation from God. It is a self-discovered phenomena. Okay, for some chuckles. What do these people have in common? Who are they first? George Washington, Richard Nixon, and Bill Clinton. What do they have in common? Besides the fact that they all end with N. Scandalous? He wasn't really. They too were, but he wasn't. Okay, as it relates to truth, he was known to what? Always tells the truth. He has never told a lie. He's never told the truth. And he doesn't know the difference. And I'm not trying to pick on them, but his presidency highlights the era that we live in, postmodernism. And of course, we all know it all depends on the definition of is, if you all remember that. You know, what does is mean? Of his trials and scandals and so on and so forth. In other words, truth, there is a phenomena called deconstructionism. Deconstructionism in a postmodern world is that there is no inherent authority in the text or in language. The authority of the text depends on the interpreter, not the author. In other words, you say whatever you want to say. It depends on how I understand it. And he understood certain things his own way because it's subjective. There's no absolute transcendent truth. Okay. All right, let's move on. Our culture's perspective of truth is, I wanted to sum it up and make it concise so that we can understand it. First, I don't know the truth. What is that called again? Agnosticism. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the truth. Second, all truth is good. Pluralism. All truth is good. First, I don't know what it is. Second, all truth is good. And third, what would you guess? Huh? I don't know the difference. Yeah, that was the previous slide. There's no truth. Very good. No truth. But even worse than no truth. Maybe no truth may give you... Your truth is wrong or relative truth? Truth is relative. In other words, whatever floats your boat. Man, if you're worshipping a cow... speaking of cows, my son comes to me and tells me, hey, Dad, I had a friend, and then his friend invited him to a play date, and then his friend told him, hey, Daniel, come and see... Daniel told him, I'm going to church, and so on and so forth. He said, well, come, I'm going to show you my God. So Daniel said, wow, that's great. This guy is religious too. So he took him to he was Indian. He took him to his home and he showed him a cow. This is no joke. He showed him a cow with incense and he said, this is my God. So my son comes to me and he says, well, wait a minute. You're telling me Jesus Christ is God. And my friend is telling me this cow is God. Who's God? You see? So truth is relative. Your God, if it floats your boat to worship a cow, it's fine. If I worship whatever, it's fine. Anyways, this is our culture's perspective of truth. It has become relative. It has become unknown. It has become diluted. Everything is true. Okay. Well, here they are. What is truth is the next point we will discuss. What is truth? The most pivotal question across the centuries. The question that Pilate asked Christ in John 18, verse 38. What is truth? And this question, or the spirit of this question, continues until 2013. What is truth? People want to know what is truth. But I'd like to say, who was standing before who? It wasn't that Christ standing before Pilate. It was Pilate standing before Christ. And this is how we should see this dialogue and interaction. What's ironic about this question is that Pilate was looking at truth and asking him, what is truth? Do you know what happened afterwards? Verse 39, this is verse 38. Unfortunately, when Pilate asked Christ, what is truth? What happened to Pilate? He left. He left and did not want to hear the answer. Pretty sad. But anyways, the spirit of the question lingers. So what is truth? Someone said reality. You did. Yeah. Right? So truth is, if I were to give you the textbook philosophical definition of truth, there's a correspondence theory of truth that says truth is that which corresponds to reality. In other words, If it is raining outside, and I tell you, or I make a propositional statement or propositional truth, and I say, it is raining outside. Now, for you to evaluate the truthfulness of this statement, you can simply look outside and see if that statement matches reality. If it matches reality, it is true. If it is sunny outside, and I'm saying it's raining outside, and it does not match reality, it's false. It's very simple. Okay? And this is the Aristotelian also theory of truth, when he said something to that effect, but he said it in a more complicated way. Truth could be propositional and personal, and I will skip this for other reasons, because I want to get back to it later. So what are the characteristics of truth? So we said what truth is. What are the characteristics? We mentioned it's absolute, it's reality. What else? Truth is, yes, Tony. Timeless, right here. Timeless truth, eternal. Eternal. What else? Any ideas? So truth is absolute by definition, by nature. It's absolute. What does it mean that it's absolute? What does absolute mean? Well, here. I didn't mean to. It means it's transcendent for all people. What else? It's eternal. Just like Tony said, eternal at all times. And you can guess the third. For all people, at all times, in all places. It's universal. So truth is absolute. In other words, what is true here in Titusville is also true in Australia. And what's true now has been true 100 years from ago and 100 years from now. It's eternal, it's transcendent, it's universal. Truth is absolute. It's beyond any subjectivity. So what else about truth? Truth is exclusive. Another definition of truth. It's exclusive. You know what that means? When a statement is true, it excludes everything else that contradicts as false. When I say 2 plus 2 equals 4, that is a very narrow and exclusive definition of truth, because it can only equal 4. Can you say 2 plus 2 equals 4 and 5? No. It can only be one exclusive truth. Why is that? Think with me, because of the law of non-contradiction, a law in philosophy. Everything cannot be true. And people say, and the pluralistic individuals say, everything is true. But everything cannot be true. Because if everything is true, then nothing is false. And if there's nothing false, then it would also be true to say everything is false. Do you get it? Let me repeat that again. If everything is true, then nothing is false. If nothing is false, then it would be true to say everything is false. And you can't have it both ways. You see? Yes, Paul?
They just sparked a memory about an article.
Hold on. Yes.
You reminded me of.
Perfect, thank you. You can have it on this
You reminded me of an article that came out a couple months ago about the new liberal math.
Oh.
Are you familiar with this article?
Go ahead.
So you said that 2 plus 2 equals 4. It can't be anything else. But in the new liberal math, 2 plus 2 could equal 5 as long as you could explain how you got to 5. So even in math and science, they're trying to create gray areas.
Very good. Now, can I respond very briefly to this? This person or group of people that are coming up with this liberal math, I want to just give them it's important to show how faulty logic they're using. And it does not, see, it's important to know that they use this logic on others, but when it comes to them, for this person, I want to ask him this question. When you go to the bank to cash your check, and you have $100 with you, and you say to the teller, I need $100 for my check, and the teller will tell you, well, you know, according to liberal math, this is $1, here is $1 back. What will they say? You see? So, again, yeah, you can't do that. Sorry, they'll get you. So anyways, math is what it is. 2 plus 2 will always equal 4. Now, can we say, when we talk about pluralism, some say all religions are true because they worship the same God. And we can say, well, truth is exclusive. It is more logical to say that all religions are false than to say all religions are true. You see, why? Because of a simple law in philosophy called the law of non-contradiction. When I say today is, Saturday in Titusville, it cannot be Saturday and Friday. It's more plausible for it to be neither. It could be Sunday or Monday. But I cannot say today is Saturday and Friday in Titusville. Take religious claims, for example. The Lord Jesus Christ, he cannot be the crucified Savior on the cross in one faith, and in another religion, he was never crucified, but it was whatever that is. Okay? So how can this be true and this be true? They are not different statements. They are contradicting statements. So today could be Saturday in Titusville, and it also could be humid. These are differing statements, but they're not contradicting. And that's the whole point of pluralism. All religions cannot be teaching the same equally valid truth because they teach contradicting truth claims. Therefore, according to the law of non-contradiction, all religions cannot be true. Well then, does that mean that they're all false? Well, can we then discover which one holds the truth? And wouldn't that be a great thing to discuss? How will I be able to determine which religion holds the true faith and what are the tests? And we can talk about that maybe in another time. So we said transcendent, exclusive, also revealed. Truth is not discovered. Galileo, when he discovered that the earth was what? Round. It was not something that he discovered. What did he do? He discovered a pre-existing truth. You see? Truth is not discovered. I am sorry. I should not have said that. Truth is not invented. It is discovered. It is not invented. It is revealed and discovered. Do you know what the word for truth is in Coptic or Greek? Elithos. Do you know what elithos means? You know, like we say it in the liturgy all the time. Pistef omein, elithos, pistef omein, or elithos gar. In the liturgy we say the word elithos. What does elithos means? Truth. I'm sorry. Elithos means truth. What does the word mean? If you were to look at the etymology of the word. Means, as I mentioned yesterday, against or not. Not. What does lithos means in Greek? Hidden. From it comes lid, to cover. Lithos means to hide or to cover. Lithos means to unhide or uncover. So truth, by definition of the word itself, means to reveal, to uncover, to unhide. You see, if you were to understand the Greek philosophers and how they looked at truth claims and truth by definition, you will have some appreciation to what truth is, not like what we nowadays understand. Okay, so now this is a time for an exercise. An exercise that will require all of you to get up. Can you please all get up? Okay. Abuna, you're exempt from this. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. Okay. So, you cannot be touching anything around you. You have some space between you and the person next to you. Have some space between you and the person next to you. And don't touch anything. Okay? Don't touch anything. So, here is what the exercise is about. You're going to close your eyes. And you will take maybe 6 or 7 revolutions. You're going to go in circles where you are in circles. And when I tell you to stop, you stop and you keep your eyes closed. Keep your eyes closed. And he's taking a picture. Okay. So, but here's the thing. You have to allow some space, and when you're going around yourself like this, you cannot touch anything. And you're going to make some circles until I tell you stop. When you stop, keep your eyes closed. Go. Don't touch anything. Keep going. Keep going. Keep your eyes closed. Keep going. Keep going. Stop. Keep your eyes closed. Now, point to where you think north is. and keep pointing and your eyes are closed. Keep to where you think north is and keep your eyes closed. Okay? Now, keep pointing, and as you are pointing now, open your eyes. Now, look around you. Look around you. So, everyone is most of everyone is pointing in different directions to where they think north is. Now, the exercise is over. Now, if you want to know where north is, where is north? I have a compass that tells me where north is, and it's this way. It's this way. Now, what's the point? Yeah, it is. Unless let me validate. Hold on. All right. Hold on. North is this way. North is this way. Yeah. I have a compass. What's the point of this exercise? What is the point? You tell me. For me to know the truth, I cannot invent it myself, and truth is not subject to what I think it is. Truth is not subject to my opinion or my preference or what I think it is. Truth is by definition transcendent. You know what I mean by transcendent? It's beyond me. I discover it. I go to get it. It's objective. It is not subjective. You know what subjective means? It depends on the subject. It depends on me. Objective means it's beyond me. I go to it. Truth comes to me. Truth does not come from me. You see? So that's the point I was trying to make with this exercise, and also to wake up a little as well, because I was getting sleepy myself. So truth is discovered, objective, transcendent. Truth is what we said, reality, ultimate reality. Do you know what the word logos means? It doesn't mean just the word. A very poor definition, and Abuna, please correct me if I'm wrong. A very poor definition of the word logos in John 1:1 is the word with a capital W. Very poor definition. The definition of the word logos, if you understand the Greek background of it, it's the ultimate reality, the light, the truth. One of the definitions is ultimate reality, and then I have a reference here, I think. I have a reference to point that out. Correct me if I'm wrong, Abuna. So, truth is reality. Truth is exclusive. Yes. Mori.
Okay. When speaking with someone who doesn't believe in God, and we give them these examples, they say that these examples relate to materialistic things. For example, where's the north, the south? This is absolute truth. 2 + 2 = 4. But when we're speaking about supernatural things like God, like that there's a resurrection, I was speaking with someone told me, we will die. No one really knows what will happen. No one.
Very
it's
good.
different when relating to to things that are absolute.
Very good. Now, very good point. I want to point out that, as Sayyidina mentioned yesterday, there are 9 ways of sharing our faith to others. For those who are intellect or have a bent to intellect and philosophy, and they have their barrier is more mental, cerebral than emotional, then we can talk about truth only to establish one thing, that there is an absolute truth that exists. We can take the material examples of absolute truth and link it to the divine, supernatural, metaphysical existence of absolute truth. We can make that bridge that gap. Do you see what I'm saying? For someone who, for example, someone who's an atheist or rejects Christianity because he sees all the evil in the world, you're not going to give him a lecture about truth. He's going to, there's another vantage point that you approach him with or her with. But that doesn't mean that truth doesn't exist. So look at the whole thing. There's no one size fits all in terms of apologetics and evangelism. Okay. Yes, sir.
What about a truth that comes to being? So right now I'm not hungry, and in an hour I say I am hungry. So this truth wasn't. It's a future truth.
Well, right now, 20 years ago, or let's say 50 years ago, Ronald Reagan was the president of the United States. Now, if to say Ronald Reagan is the president, it's not a true statement, but it was true 50 years ago. Embedded and implied in your propositional truth is the time this proposition was made.
But it gets created though when you say I am hungry. So before I wasn't. So saying I am hungry, it means that now this has become a truth. So you were saying it can't be invented; it's discovered. So how is?
Yeah. It was also true when you said you weren't hungry. Now, it was also true then to say I wasn't hungry, just like it is true now to say I am hungry. You see? So it's true. In other words, what you say now, I am not, or I ate, I'm not hungry now. What you said does not negate what you said, let's say, a few hours ago.
But is it creating a truth?
You're not creating a truth. You're not creating a new truth, because this new, if I may add, this new statement, this new proposition does not contradict with the proposition you made 2 hours ago. Because 2 hours ago you weren't hungry, it was true. But 2 hours later, you're no longer hungry. It is still true. Then there's no contradiction. There's no creation of new truth. Okay.
I just like to mention one thing. Someone told me in the past, you need to differentiate between facts and truth. What he mentioned, I am hungry now, this is a fact, but has nothing to do with the ultimate truth. Truth is in much higher position than facts.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think, I don't want to get too philosophical, but I think we can say it depends on your interpretation. When I say truth, a fact is also a true fact and a true statement, or else it's not a fact. And truth or true statements are also facts. So facts are true, truth are facts. So I don't want to say there's a fine line between, just like you can study Plato's, the differences he was recounting between reality and truth. Does one correspond to the other, or is reality different than truth, or can you make up your own reality? And if you make up your own reality, are you making up your own truth? Yani, I think not to overly yani, confuse ourselves, I can say that facts are true, but perception of these facts may be different depending on the individual. For example, now this laptop is black. Maybe this is not a good example, but I may perceive something differently. For example, let me give you this example. If I were to ask Hitler, who killed millions of people, if I were to ask him this question, do you believe killing innocent people good or bad? What would you think he will say? No. As a matter of fact, he said it was good. I'm sorry, he said it was bad. Yeah, you're right. He said it was bad. If you read his writings, he said killing innocent people is bad. Exactly. But what he said, they are not innocent people. And I'm quoting him. He said, Jews are subhuman. I am quoting Hitler. So subhuman means that they're bad. So what I'm trying to say is that I can perceive something differently to justify what I'm doing. You see? I don't want to get into controversial بالضبط. I don't want to get into controversial topics, but maybe another example and we'll move on. Someone who is a pro-choice lady, if you were to ask her this question, do you think killing innocent babies is a good thing or a bad thing? And if she was sane, she will say, I don't want to get into the debate of abortion because there's a lot of other variables, but I'm just generally speaking. If she was sane, she will say killing innocent people or innocent children is bad. How can you say it's good? But then they're not babies until they're born. Do you see? Do you get it? So truth claims and facts are prescriptive prescriptive. Okay? And my opinion is descriptive. Do you see the difference? One, you cannot change, but you can change your perception. Okay? But perception does not necessarily create reality. It creates a bubble that you live in. Let's move on. So truth is real. It's reality. Truth is exclusive. The only way was also mentioned. You see where I'm getting with this. John 14:6. And I call this Acts. This is the 411 of our faith. You know what the 411 is? I just make it 411, 412. There's no name under heaven by whom we must be saved. Something like that, Abuna. Am I right? Something like that. Okay, and John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So truth is exclusive. Truth is revealed. Well, we have the revealed one in Jeremiah and Matthew 11:27. I can give you the references. Truth is eternal. Well, we have the eternal one. Truth is transcendent. Well, he is above all. Truth is universal, where he is for all. Suddenly, what do you see? Truth becomes the Lord Jesus Christ. The definitions of truth, the characteristics of truth are embodied in the person of truth. Yes, sir.
Actually, you are building your statement. You are building your statement upon a statement of others, which might not be true. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, don't be sorry.
Yeah, it can be claimed like this. You are saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it came Jesus. But who says that these statements written in the Bible are truth?
Okay. Then the reason why I'm sharing this with you, okay, good point. The reason why I'm sharing this with you as a Christian, because you believe in the authenticity of the scriptures. Again, I am not giving this lecture to an atheist. I am not sharing this with an atheist because I am presupposing, if I'm talking to an unbeliever, I would be presupposing the truthfulness of the scriptures to prove the truthfulness of the scriptures. That's called circular reasoning, and it doesn't work. But what I'm trying to tell you, so it's a good point. Pick and choose that which is applicable to an unbeliever. Pick and choose from this that which is applicable to you. Make sense? I hope it does. All right, let's move on. I am the truth. So Christ said, I am the truth. Follow me. Now let me just pause and think. Okay, hold on. Explain this to me. Truth is an abstract phenomena. مش كده? Truth is abstract. You point to it, you say, okay, well, this is true, because you're measuring, evaluating a statement, whether it's true or false. But to have someone, a person, to say, have you ever thought about it when Christ said, I am the truth? Wait a minute. How can a person be the truth? Isn't this a little strange? I mean, truth is an abstract. It's an abstraction. How can it be personified? Think about it. You just claim it. Okay? It gives you an indication that truth, by definition, is the Lord Jesus Christ. He did not come to point to the truth. Buddha said, don't follow me, follow my writings. Muhammad said, don't follow me, follow Allah. Allah. Okay? Christ did not say, don't follow me, follow someone else. He said, follow me because I am the way, not pointing to the way. I am the truth, not pointing or preaching the truth. I am the life, not pointing to life. One time I was at a convention, actually it was in the Southern Diocese in Panama City Beach when the conventions were held back then, and Sayyidina was present at the time, and I said this. I said, I don't believe everything Christ said is true. And Sayyidina was present in the room, and I could just imagine, I saw him about to get up and say, okay, well, sit down, please. So, and I mean it. I mean it. I don't believe everything Christ said is true. Did I get your attention? Yes. Of course I got your attention. But don't worry. I'll respond. I believe it is true because Christ said it. Do you see the difference? You see the difference? If I say, well, I think everything Christ said is true, I'm implying that there's some standard by which I measure whatever Christ said to. You see? But who is the standard? Christ himself. So by default, whatever he says becomes true simply because he said it. Do you get it? It's just looking at it differently. Basically, as if you say, I am in the ocean because I am wet. You say, I am wet because I am in the ocean. Do you get the logic? Yes, sir. I think, Paul, you had your hand up? No. Okay. Tony?
Or I guess another way to say it would be like...
Microphone.
How do you know how long a foot is? There was somebody whose foot was made the standard, and that person's foot was...
There you go. There you go. So that's the threshold that we have for truth, or the standard for truth, is the Lord Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm going to move on because I'm taking a little longer than... So Christ, God, is the source of truth, and we have established that fact. His words are truth. His laws are truth. His promises are truth. These three, do they... By the way, this applies for Christians. So we're not going to talk to atheists about this. What are these three? What do they relate to? Faith, love, and hope. I just switched them a little. Faith in his words, love his laws and commandments, hope in his promises. So the three cardinal or theological virtues are also aligned with the truthfulness or the personification, the embodiment of truth himself. Why is truth important? I'll give you an example. One time, there was a philosophy professor was asked this question by a student. Why is truth important? The professor, being very witty, responded back and he said, do you want the true answer or the false answer? She didn't realize that asking the question implies the importance of truth. Do you get it? So truth is important, or else we can't communicate, we can't talk. Truth is important because it gives us freedom. What's the link between truth and freedom? Freedom, the definition of freedom in our society is to be freed from something or freed from someone. I want to be free from authority, free from my parents, free from this, free from that. But the correct definition of freedom, according to Lord Acton, Christian historian, he said, freedom is not the permission to do what we like. It is the power to do what we ought. Have you ever asked yourself, I want to be free from, but have you ever asked yourself, what am I free for? Do you see? Well, you're free from this, but what are you free for? That assumes that we have to, or we know the truth of who we are and what we ought to do. So freedom gives you, truth gives you freedom. Only then will you come to understand the very famous verse, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. How can the truth set me free? Because truth will give me an understanding of what I ought to do, and that is the correct definition of freedom. Do you get it? Okay. All right. Truth will give me directions. Without truth, I'm lost. Without a roadmap in life, I am lost in life. I have no meaning. But truth will give me direction. Listen to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 9 and 10. With all unrighteous deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth. If you don't receive the love of the truth, you will perish. Truth will give you meaning in life. Gregory Kukul, in his book Relativism, he said, apart from truth, we wander aimlessly. I can use this. We are left with nothing greater than our own ideas. We have no standard against which to measure the meaning of our own existence. If there's no truth, there's no meaning in life, because you cannot measure meaning without any standard. Dr. Hobart Maurer, he's an atheist. He's atheist professor at Yale and Harvard. He said something I think was very profound. He said, we psychologists looked upon the whole matter of sin and moral accountability as a great incubus. But in becoming amoral, ethically neutral, and free, we have cut the very roots of our being, lost our deepest sense of selfhood and identity, and we find ourselves asking, who am I? What is my deepest destiny? What does living mean? And that's coming from an atheist. We'll skip this. Why do people suppress the truth? Finally, you will see that there's no suppression of truth when it comes to our legal system, when it comes to medicine, when it comes to traffic lights in most countries, when it comes to exams, when it comes to financial, there's no suppression of truth when it has to do with your 401k or your stock market. You know, there's no suppression of truth. You want the truth. But why do you suppress the truth when it comes to religious truth claims? Why? Anybody thought about it? Yes. Oh, hold on.
Difficult.
Difficult to adhere to. There is a verse in the scriptures that summarizes why we shun. By the way, if you read the Pauline epistle today from Timothy, do you remember if you attended the liturgy? People wanted to shun the truth because they had itching ears, exactly. Or ears that do not... Exactly. Here it is. This is one of my favorite verses, not 3:16, but 3:19. John 3:19. It says, "And this is the condemnation, that the light has come into the world, and men loved darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. For everyone practicing evil hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his deeds should be exposed." So really, it's not that truth doesn't exist. It's not that truth is unattainable. It's not that truth is way out there. It's that I don't want to submit to the truth because I want to keep in the dark. Now, let me give you an example. If I am in my room, the lights are out. It's dark. I can do whatever I want, have all the bad thoughts in the world, and do all the bad things in the world. Can anybody see me? No, the lights are out. But here's the question. I am faced with two things. If the lights are on, I'm going to have to stop what I'm doing because now I'm seen by everyone. Or I can keep the lights off and keep doing what I'm doing. Oftentimes, we like to keep the switch off to continue doing what we're doing rather than come to the light, turn on the light, and transform our lives from darkness to light. Do you get it? So it's not so much that light doesn't exist. It's that I want to turn it off because I have here, because my deeds are evil. And that's, okay, moral corruption for the sake of time. All right, that's it. Suggested readings. Relativism, this is a great book by Francis Beckwith and Gregory Kukul. It's called Relativism, listen to this, Feet Firmly Planted in Midair. Feet firmly planted in midair. In other words, relativism does not hold any water. Truth Decay by Douglas Gruthison. This is a great book that I recommend for all of you. Finding God Beyond Harvard. Do you know Harvard, by the way, was a Christian institution? Do you know what the slogan or for Harvard is? Veritas. You know what Veritas means? Truth. Harvard was built. Have anybody heard of the Veritas Forum? Okay, this is a great apologetic resource, veritasforum.org. Go to that Veritas Forum, you'll find countless multimedia, videos, and MP3s and recordings of leading scholars in the field of evangelism and apologetics. One of the great resources that I recommend for all of you, Veritas Forum. Veritas Forum was actually championed by Harvard University. They go throughout the United States and beyond, and they hold forum. They bring speakers such as Lee Strobel, Ravi Zacharias, and Alex McFarland. It's all these leading scholars in the field of apologetics, and they talk about the truth of the Christian faith amongst non-believers and believers alike. So these are 3 books. Actually, I'm going to give you just an excerpt from this book, Finding God Beyond Harvard. Harvard, like many modern institutions, seeks to excite in its students a passion for truth while tending to ignore the possibility of any divine truth worth pursuing. This creates an environment wherein students feel safer as doubters than as believers, and as perpetual seekers rather than eventual finders. Do you see? It's very good read if you're interested in learning more about truth. Anyways, so this concludes, and forgive me, I went again over my times. This concludes our talk, and glory be to God forever and ever. Amen. And if you have any questions or comments, this is the time. One person always told me that the lecture is the appetizer and the main course is the questions and answers. This is when people learn the most. Or comments. Yes, sir.
I believe if we offered the definition of freedom to someone outside and they heard freedom is the power to do what you ought to do, they would hear ought to do and see it as a limitation, as an assignment for them to do by someone else. And then I feel restrictions and chains come down upon that.
Yeah.
So
You can also point out one thing. Good point. You can point out one thing. Your fulfillment in life, your meaning in life comes from doing that which you ought to do in life. You see, so you can clarify that. And you can give an example. Let me give you an example. Anybody has a pen? Can I borrow your pen for a second? So here's an example, just to the analogous way of evangelism or the storytelling. Now, this pen, when is it most fulfilled and satisfied? Never? When it's used, when it writes, when it's used in writing, okay? So this pen is most fulfilled and satisfied when it's used for the reason it was intended. You see? Now, let's say I take this pen, and I think battery is probably running low. When I take this pen and open with it a jar of pickles, what happens to it? It breaks because I'm using it for a different purpose. Likewise, you, him, and her, and everybody else. When you are used, live your life. Oh, my bad. When you are used, or in other words, living your life the way it was intended by your creator, because I, as creator of this pen, I created it for a purpose, to write with, not to open jars with. When you live your life the same way, the same fashion it was intended by your creator, you are most fulfilled and satisfied. Do you get it now? Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir. Hold on. You'll get yelled at.
In our activity, we had the real compass that pointed to the real truth.
Yes.
And many say, yes, there is a real truth, but there's no way for us to know what that compass is to find that truth.
Very good. That's a whole different this is an excellent point. How do I know? We have competing worldviews. This compass could be Buddhism, could be Eastern philosophies. This compass could be, a multitude of things. How do I know? I wish time would allow to talk about how Christianity, or Christ, because Christianity is Christ and Christ is Christianity, how he is the only true coherent compass. Now, not using we're not using the scriptures. When we say, well, Christ is the truth, we're not going to use the scriptures when we're talking to atheists, trying to discern which worldview is the coherent worldview. There are, and I would encourage you to read a book by Ravi Zacharias called Why Jesus. It's called Why Jesus. And actually another book, even better than that, also by the same author, Ravi Zacharias, called Jesus Among Other Gods. He lists, he's into comparative theology and religion rather, and he lists scores of religions, and then he says, well, what are the tests of truth? How can I evaluate? Which compass? So it's a whole different discussion. Yes, sir.
I want to ask about the relation between faith and truth. What about the relation between faith and truth?
Excellent, excellent. Faith and truth, and we touched on it very briefly, I think Paul had a question about this last night. We can say truth and faith. Truth is objective. You see, it's beyond you. Faith tries to attain that which is beyond you. Faith is subjective, comes from you. Truth comes to you. That's the difference. But I also may add faith and reason, intellect and faith. And I mentioned yesterday that faith without reason is fanaticism. All the fanatics have faith, strong faith. Do you think Osama bin Laden had faith? Strong faith without reason creates fanaticism. Reason without faith, working faith, dynamic faith, is futility. In other words, it's not going to help much. Yes, sir.
Do you believe that Osama bin Laden didn't have faith of his own?
Of course he did.
I'm sorry, reason of his own.
Yeah. Okay. He was, you said deceptive. Perceptive reason. I think misguided and deceived. And that's, I think, I'll leave it at, I don't want to get into, exactly. Misguided and deceived, I think, would be the best explanation. Like, you know what? All the atheists, all the non-believers. Do you think, is there, one second. I don't, again, one proposition. I don't believe that atheists exist. There's no one person that does not have a God. It's whether you call him the God of the scriptures or you make up your own God. But there are no atheists. Everyone has a God. Whether you call it the Lord Jesus Christ, or you call it yourself, or you call it money, you call it power, you call it sex, you call it whatever you want. But everyone has a God. Yes, sir.
Actually, when you said he was misconducted or something like this. Yeah, this from your point of view, which could not be true as well.
Very good. That goes back to, forgive me, what's your name again? It goes back to Andrew. I could say he's misguided, but you know what? You know what he says? I am misguided. Right? Now, is there a way where we can evaluate objectively, here's the key word, objectively, unbiasedly, what is true? There are tests of truth. There's the correspondence test of truth. There's the coherence test of truth. There's the relational relevance test of truth. There are very different tests of, several tests of truth in philosophy, in logic that we can explore. But that's another talk altogether. Maybe we can, yes. Any other comments or questions? Was this helpful at all? Was this helpful? Was it relevant? It confuses. Forgive me. It was unintended. Yes, sir.
Yeah, but what if you don't even recognize philosophy and say that philosophy and logic is wrong? As most of the non-Christians think.
Yeah. Well, if they think it's wrong, I think it's wrong for them to think it's wrong. And I'll tell you why. Philosophy means simply the love of wisdom. Phila, Sophia. Philosophy means love of wisdom. Now, how can you say the love of wisdom is wrong? All I point out to read Proverbs. That's all I have to say. How many? احنا عندنا في fraction اسمه في القداس عن الحكمة, الwisdom. Christ himself was called. So you cannot say philosophy is wrong. Likewise, you cannot say logic is wrong. What did God say? How did God sum up the entire law of the Old Testament? Love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. You cannot check your mind out and then say, I'm a Christian, I have to. So it is not that logic is wrong. It is not that philosophy is wrong. It's that our use of it is wrong. Do you see? Politics, for example. Politics is not wrong. Our usage of politics, how we use politics may be wrong. That doesn't mean that objectively politics is wrong. You see? I think we should probably, because we're getting very tired. And glory be to God forever.